Hello and welcome to Beckham's Title Pond's new database application. In this video we'll be going over brief functionality of the application and help give you a better idea of how to use it. Alright, so this is the login screen. We're going to go ahead and log in. So the employee PIN can be anywhere between 1 to 20 characters. It can be letters, it can be numbers, it can be pretty much any combination that you want as long as it's a unique PIN. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. Alright, and this is the main menu screen. This is how you'll navigate to all the functions of the new database application. As you can see, when you log in, you'll have any notifications of late payments. Since you last run the program, you can create new loans, payment transaction, customer data reports, and file maintenance. Alright, so let's go ahead and click on New Loan. On the New Loan screen, you'll see all the existing customers in the database. Whenever you click on one of these customers, it will take you to the existing customer screen. You also have an ability to get to the main menu again through Return, Loan Calculation, New Customer. You also have a search bar on the right hand side, and this allows you to filter out the results, since as you get a larger database it will be harder to find existing customers. You just simply type in the name of someone for first name and it will filter out the results, or you can do social security number and it will also filter out the results based on the numbers you type. Alright, so whenever we want to add a loan to a customer, we can either choose the customers here or hit New Customer, or you can even go into Loan Calculation. So let's say we want to do an existing customer. We can double click that, and then we have the information at the top autofilled. Whenever you fill in this information through the existing customer, you won't be able to actually edit the information here, but you can edit the comments. Whenever you're typing in title information or loan information or even client information, you can move from the different fields by pressing Tab to quickly navigate through. You can also hit the multiple titles in case the client coming in has more than one title that they need to attach to the loan. Whenever you enter in a principal, interest, and duration, only when you enter in all three will the payment information on the right hand side display. Whenever you want to hit the monthly date of what the payments will be, so if we wanted to have a customer pay on the 16th of every month, we would choose the 16th within the same month of which it is, since the payments will start at the next month. So if I hit the 16th of April, the first payment will be due on May 16th. Okay, next we have the loan calculation screen. This screen will look very familiar to the old database system. You can simply enter in the three values up here and then the monthly date as well. And when you enter in these three values, it will enter in this information down here for you automatically. Whenever you hit continue with loan, these information will be carried over to the customer screen that we were looking at just shortly ago. Whenever you hit monthly date, this information also carries over and functions the same way as it did on the loan creation screen that we were looking at before. So let's go ahead and hit continue with loan. It will ask for if this is an existing customer. If it is and you hit yes, it will take you to the screen right here. And if you hit no, it will take you to a blank slate of the customer screen, with the exception of it filling in this payment information at the bottom. Alright, and so in order to have a successful payment go through, all the information will need to be filled in completely. So all these fields need to be filled in. If you don't fill in any of these fields and try to submit it, it will give you, starting with the first error of going down the form invalidation to tell you what you're missing or what values are incorrect. Okay, so I went ahead and entered in some loan information real quick right here. And as you can see, we filled in all the columns here. You can write in comments for the customer, and those will carry over to different screens so you can see them later. And you can also enter in multiple titles here. Alright, so whenever we hit submit, and it asks if you want to add this loan. If you hit no, it won't do anything. If you hit yes, it will add the loan to the database, and it will also bring up this print dialog. So with this print dialog, you can hit print preview and see what the what the contract will look like when it's going to be printed out. But if you want to go ahead and send it to the printer, hit the print dialog, and then you can select what printer you have. I don't have any printers installed in this computer. And then the number of copies you would wish to print. Alright, and this concludes our demo of the new loan section of the application. Alright, so next we're going to show the customer data portion of the Beckham's Title Pawn application. So if you remember, we added in Joey Roberti as our customer. So as we can see, that information is in this new window. So this window also shows all the customers entered in the database, but instead of only being able to select and then going into a new loan transaction, we can actually see all the information that the database has on that customer. So if we double click on an option here, it will update the view with all loans that we have for Joey, and as you can see in this top bar, it will update kind of like what section you're on. If you double click the loans, it will show you the payments that are required for the loan, and then if you were to click on these individual payments, it would show you the payments the customers actually made on the loans. So when you come in here to edit payments, you're going to be double clicking on one of these sections to view the new customer payments that they put on to possibly void them. You'll never want to edit the top one here, which says the creation one, because that is used for the database to help keep track and manage things. Alright, and so you can also hit the back button here to navigate backwards through the loan. Also, whenever you go to the payment screen, you can also view the titles for the loan that's selected. So here, it's loan ID 12, so we can also see the two titles that we added for that loan. Also, when you're using this data grid view, you might find it more quick to use the backspace button and the arrow keys to quickly navigate through this and be able to go through information more quickly. Also, on the right hand side, we have the search bar. The search bar will only work on this first screen, since after you go past this screen, there's going to be very few entries for the rest of them. Also, we have the edit button at the bottom. The edit button is only available to database admins. So if you're not an admin, you won't be able to see this option down here. However, you can use the edit button on each screen on this window. So, like we are on the customers in the database, if we hit edit on a customer, we'll be able to edit the information on that customer for the customer table in our database. So you could either delete the customer, which will then in turn delete all loans and all payments associated with that customer. So you're probably never going to want to delete a customer out of the database. Maybe update their information or the comments. Also, once you go to the loan screen, you can edit loans to a certain extent. We allow the use of being able to update the customer ID here and the status of the loan. So we have several options there that will help with searching options. So like if a loan is active, then it will appear whenever you're trying to search for payments and whatnot. However, if a loan is paid in full, they're not going to appear in certain data grid views that we have. Also, if you created a customer or a loan associated with that customer accidentally, and the loan needs to exist, it just needs to be two different customers, and if you know their customer number, you can type it in here and enter it in to a new customer. However, if you enter in something for a customer that doesn't exist, so let's say customer ID 1000, which doesn't exist in the database, and you try to update it, it won't let you update it because that customer doesn't exist. Alright, and then we can also go into the payments for the customer. Again, on this screen, you might not want to edit these things just because it will mess up the database's like calculations and whatnot. However, if you do come in here to edit a payment, you can only change the employee ID, which may be useful in order to, if a wrong employee entered in the information or they need to update that, you can change the status of it, or you can change the due date or the date that it was paid based on your records. So the due date could also help a loan from, or a payment from being flagged as late if need be. As I mentioned before, when you double click on one of these payments, it will show you a breakdown of the customer payments made. So if we double click this one, we can see a payment here, and this is what you'll be able to change. So let's say we wanted to avoid a payment, we could come in here, hit edit, then we could just delete this payment. So So we hit delete. It will give you a warning about it will change reports because once you delete the payment, it will no longer exist. So let's go ahead and delete that. Now when we go back, we'll see that the payment here changed from the pay amount being 160 to 0, and also the updated balance and pay here. Alright, so this pretty much concludes the customer data portion of our Beckham Style Pawn application. So let's go ahead and move into the payment transaction. Okay, so whenever you click on payment transaction, it's going to prompt you to enter in the loan ID. If you don't know the loan ID, you can hit cancel and go to a screen to view loans that are made. Alright, so if you do know the loan ID, you can just type it in. I know loan 11 exists, so I'm going to go ahead and hit that and do enter. Alright, and so here we can see that Jacob Donor has a loan. We have the payments of the loan all right here, all the way to the end date. Payments that won't show up here are payments that are already paid. As you can see on the right hand side, we have the total paid on the loan balance, and then underneath we have the interest of the loan. We have the monthly interest that was from that payment, and then we have the total remaining for the payment and the total that the payment was originally due for. Alright, so let's go ahead and demo this a little bit more. So this payment already has $50 on it. I can make another payment of $100 if I wanted to and hit submit. It will ask you if you want to add this payment, and it will display the date of the payment that is due, that's selected in this data grid view. So we hit yes. Alright, and as you can see, we have an updated payment here. It's now $150 instead of just $50. We have an updated total pay on the loan, which is $150, when we have a new loan balance, which is the remaining amount of $1450 needs to be paid on the loan. The payment remaining of this current payment selected is $10, and that updated, and we have the payment due, which is still $160 because that's the total amount of the payment. If we click on any of these other payments, we can see that these fields down at the bottom update. Alright, so if we go ahead and pay off this completely, we can hit submit, and then we'll see that that whole first payment was removed from this data grid view because the status of that is now paid, so it will no longer appear in this data grid view. Alright, and the only other thing to show on this page is the extending of the loan of a month. So let's say a customer comes in and they need an extension on the payment that's due on the 6th of June, or I mean on the 9th of June, and if we type in any other payment here, then the monthly interest, it's not going to let us add the interest. It's going to display the amount of the interest that should be due to extend the payment, and then the amount that you attempted to do. So if you look down here, we can see the interest that needs to be paid for the month extension. So we can go ahead and type that in, and when we do, we'll hit submit. So you'll see that that one payment kind of disappeared from the top here. It's because it has now been added to the bottom of the payment, so it's now just extended the loan by a month now. And the value that you put into the payment as the month's interest will now show up in the customer database. So if we go and we check that out real quick, we're on loan 11, so we can see the payments that we made here to fully pay off this. We can see a payment for $60 that I had been messing around with earlier, or well, that was the actual the month interest extension, so that's the payment on the interest, and then this was the moved payment down. And you can see that it had an update from the employee ID, but it doesn't have an update on the date paid because nothing was being paid on that loan. So we can also double check here on what it looks like to have multiple payments within a loan, and so those are all of them. So if you wanted to, you could void a payment here. Alright, and if you go back, then you'll notice that once you void it, it will also update the paid portion of it. So now, since that $10 came off it, that payment is no longer paid and would appear back in the payment transaction. So this concludes our demonstration of the payment transaction windows, and we'll continue on to reports. So when we click on reports, it will take us to the reports menu page. We have a daily report, a weekly report, a monthly report, a late report, custom report, and then we have an option to go back to the main menu. So when we hit on daily report, we'll see a breakdown of the payment receipts that were made for today. If we look at these payment receipts, you can scroll all the way down here and see all the information that's associated with that payment. So it shows you the customer information, it shows you the loan information, it shows you the payment information that was made, and then the customer payment that was made on it. So if we look at this loan creation tab, we see the 2 loans that were made today. We made the one for Joey Roberti, and then we have one for Jacob that was made earlier today. So if we go and press print down at the bottom, we'll have 2 views pop up here. So one of the views is the report for the payment receipts, and the other one's for the loan creation. So you can scroll through this and sample the information, hit print preview, or you can just go ahead and hit the print, and that will give you what you need. Alright, so that's it for daily report. Weekly report gives you a breakdown of the different payments that were made. It shows the principal of those, the interest from them, and then the total altogether. We have the late payments on the right hand side. We have the total loaned out, the total interest from that loan, and then the total due here. And if you hit print, it will give you the breakdown of the weekly report. Alright, for a monthly report, it looks very similar to the weekly report, and it gives you the same breakdown of the principal, interest, the totals, the late payments, and the loan amount. Also, you can hit print and it gives you the breakdown. Late reports, whenever you click late reports, it will run to check to see if any have went late since you last ran it. When you log in, it also does the same check, so the likelihood of a late payment coming due whenever you hit that report is close to none, but nonetheless you can see if it is. Maybe you left the application on overnight, and so whenever it runs again, it will show you if there was any new late payments that happened. Oh, and one more thing about the late reports. So these payments are late and they still need to be paid. So you can actually double click on these payments and it will take you to the payment transaction screen to kind of help out and make that a little bit faster if you're looking for a late payment. So we go back into reports. Alright, next we have a custom report. So we have a daily style report in which we can see the payment receipts and the loans created, or you can see the total breakdown for the monthly in style. So initially no reports are run on this screen like they are on the others. You have to first enter in the information here and hit run report, and then this information will fill. Alright, and monthly report didn't run because we select the report format to be daily instead of monthly or weekly, and we hit run report here, and then those values will update. So you can also do custom date ranges. You can start the front of the month, the end of the month, and hit run, and then since monthly was selected, it switched to this tab. And also it will show the information here. Switch back, and then it will give us all the information. And as you can see, it pull up the information here. If we switch to daily and run the report again, then we could see that same information here. One thing to watch out for is whenever you run reports, let's say I wanted to change the date range to 1:30 and hit run report. This information for the report format that was selected will be the same. However, if you switch back to this screen, it will show the previous report information. So, alright, and so that pretty much sums up the reports menu. Also, the reports menu are only available for admins in the database. If you try to go to this report whenever you're not an admin, it will not allow you access to the page. Also, as a shortcut to the late reports, this tab up here, the new late, you can click on this number here and it will also take you to the late reports. And that concludes the late report section. Alright, so the final portion of our program is the file maintenance screen. So we can see that the different options here, we have change pin, add employee, backup database, and restore database. Add employee, backup database, and restore database are all admin tools, so they won't be visible to normal employees. Alright, so if you want to change your pin, you will simply type in your old pin, which in this case, my password was testpass1. So if I want to enter in a new pin, this also needs to be unique, so I can't type in a password here that has already existed and submit that. So if I type in one that's not unique, it will first go through the validation to make sure both these fields are the same, and then when we hit submit, it will prompt me that this pin already exists and that I need to choose another one. So I'm gonna do a unique pin. Alright, and the pin's changed. And now if I were to try to log in with that pin, I can log into the database with it. Alright, and so next we have add employee. So I'll make a new employee. Username. Enter in a pin. This validation works exactly the same as the one in change pin. And then the privileges. Alright, and the employee was added. So now if we were to log out and log in with our new user, go to file maintenance, we can see that those options aren't there. So in order to show you the last few, I'm going to go ahead and log back into the admin account. Alright, so we have the backup database. Backup database, you just go ahead and click it, and it's already backed up the database. So if we were to hit restore database, or go into a file browser, we'd be able to see in the directory of where the database is stored that it made the backup. So we have the backup of April 26th, which is today's date. If we clicked on it, then we can select the Beckham DB, and if I double click this, it would load it in as the current database file. And this is just telling you that this is the required name in order for it to be able to work with our database system. Also, whenever you restore the database to this backup, if we went back into this folder, we have the before the restore date. So let's say that you need that previous version that you accidentally backed up from, then we can get it right through there. Alright, and that concludes our file maintenance and our demonstration of the Beckham Style Upon application.